Thank you, Tess, and hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. We're really excited to be here. We have some of the strongest members of the Lincoln team who work on the UC account today here to present an overview of the short-term disability and long-term disability benefit plan offerings, an evidence of insurability process, along with a portal demo, so we can show you a little bit about what the employees will be able to see if and when they file a claim. So I wanted to do just some quick introductions here from the Lincoln team, and then we'll dive right in. My name is Grace Hunt. I'm the National Account Executive here from the Lincoln team, so I oversee the entire strategic relationship between Lincoln and UC. And with me, I have my partner in crime, Petra. She is our National Account Service Manager, so she is responsible for all of the day-to-day account management activities, and the two of us work very, very closely hand in hand on all things account management related. And then we have a couple of members from the short-term disability and long-term disability teams who are here with us today. You'll hear from them in a little bit in the deck, but we have Andy Briles and Daniel Ziccarelli, who are our short-term disability team managers. And then we have Robert Dijon Domenico, who is our long-term disability team manager, along with Tiffany Roberts, who's also a member of our long-term disability team. So I think we have put together the right crew here to help educate you all on the benefits. We do have a couple points throughout the presentation where we're going to stop if there's any questions that we will be checking throughout the Zoom. So definitely feel free to put them in chat, or we can open it up for questions as the meeting progresses. And are, again, just excited to be here with you guys today and appreciate you all taking the time to join. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I will turn it over to Andy, who's going to talk a little bit about the short-term and long-term disability overview.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Andy Briles, and I just a little quick intro. I've been with Lincoln for almost 5 years now, and I'm one of the managers that oversees a team of case managers that are handling the short-term disability claims. Just going to do a little bit of an overview for disability plans. If you are out of work for an illness, injury, pregnancy, or surgery, then you do have a disability option available to you, which will help to do a wage replacement while you're unable to go to work. And I did also just want to note that university employees are not paying into the California EDD state disability plan. So if you are interested in disability, this is the plan that you would want to look at to help with that wage replacement. All employees that are eligible for this are full, mid-level, and core benefits. And employees are eligible to enroll in this benefit as of the date of hire or the date that you obtain benefit eligibility. So there could be some roles where there's a requirement to become eligible, such as a minimum number of hours worked. So there could be some time for someone to become eligible. But I think most are eligible as of date of hire to enroll in the benefit. There are, as far as payment for the plans, employees are automatically enrolled in the basic STD plan, and this benefit is paid for by the university. And if you're electing to participate in the voluntary short-term or long-term plans, then you must contribute the cost of those benefits through payroll deductions. And I'll just go a little bit more on the short-term benefit options. There's two benefit options here. There's the basic plan. This is the one that's at no cost to you through the university. This benefit plan pays a 55% benefit. It's up to $800 a month. And we do get some questions around this, so I wanted to call out that $800 a month maximum, just so that you have that in front of you if you're trying to elect the basic or the voluntary coverage, so you can pick the one that's right for you, that it is an $800 maximum monthly benefit. The voluntary STD coverage plan, this is the one that if you elect or opt into this plan, that there would be payroll deductions where you're contributing towards this benefit. And it pays a 60% benefit up to $15,000 a month. Both of these plans pay on a biweekly cycle. And we like to kind of call that out too, just to help with planning. If you happen to be like a monthly salary earner, you're paid on a monthly basis, then that your earnings would be converted and paid on a biweekly basis. And that also applies to, for example, that basic benefit that pays $800 a month. That'll be converted and paid on a biweekly basis as well. There is an elimination period. So benefits will be payable on the latest of the 15th day of continuous disability, use of sick leave up to 22 working days, or regular earnings end. So generally speaking, there's a 14-day elimination period for benefits to start. If you happen to have a good amount of time in your sick bank, then per the contractual requirement, you would need to use up to 22 days of sick time before the benefits start. Or if you choose to use quite a bit of your accruals. If you have a larger bank, that is also okay, but the benefit essentially would then start once you're off of a paid status. And the short-term disability plan, it pays for a maximum of 6 months once the benefits start. So it's a 24-week or 6-month payable benefit period. Think that's what I had for the short term. And Tiffany's going to do the next one, which is a little bit of information on the long-term disability benefits.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Tiffany Roberts. Just a little bit background on me. I have been doing claims for about 16 years now and working with the University of California policy since about 2017. So I'm one of the senior long-term disability case managers actually on the team working with all you fun people. So a little bit about the long-term disability overview is that the long-term disability is still also the 60% of monthly earnings to a maximum of the $15,000 a month. And that's very similar with the amount of the voluntary short-term disability. So we do pay out on a monthly basis in the rears, but on a monthly basis. So it does change a little bit when you do get into the long-term disability. The benefits will be payable on the latest of after the end of short-term disability or the latest of 182 days or exhaustion of accumulated sick leave. So a lot of folks may ask, well, why would I need the long-term disability or why would I need the short-term disability? Well, you have to start with the short-term disability, as long-term disability wouldn't start until after 182 days being out of work. So, or exhaustion of accumulated sick leave. So just wanted to make a note of that. The maximum benefit duration, most of it, I know it kind of varies against age of day from your day of disability. So kind of more lines to keep in mind that if you're less than 60, you would be eligible for, at time of date of disability, you'd be eligible for about 5 years of long-term disability benefits. If you're over 69 over, then you would be eligible for 12 months of long-term disability benefits. So give or take, the age of date of disability is how we would calculate what that maximum benefit date would be. So I believe, is there, to kind of wrap up the kind of this section of the voluntary short-term basic short-term disability and long-term disability, would there be any questions on the high level plan design of either of these?
Yeah, Tiffany, I have a basic question, and I don't know if this is something you can answer, but if a person's in short term and was receiving short term disability, is there any cases where is there a different criteria, to start the long term disability? Does it just kind of go into long term, or is there a different type of criteria determining long term disability benefits?
Thanks so much, Tess, for your question. It's a very good question. There is some differences in the contractual language between short-term and long-term disability. So pretty much we're looking at, with long-term disability, we would be looking at occupation, perform in the national economy, and short-term disability mostly, looks at jobs specifically with UC. So there is a little bit of difference of meeting that requirement, and so it can take time to do that. So we normally move when we see that there's a specific time frame. We do move the short-term disability claim over to our team, the long-term disability side of things, in order for us to start that process and those reviews.
Thank you.
Right. And I would just add to that, just a little extra. We have an internal process where the claim will transition from our short-term disability team to our long-term disability team, like Tiffany mentioned. So there's not any necessarily additional steps just to initiate that from the employee perspective, as we will help with that process and moving it over. If someone's seeming like they're going to remain out for a longer period while they're on short-term, then we'll go ahead and kind of refer over to our long-term team, and they'll start reviewing from that point to make that as seamless as possible.
Thanks, Andy. Any other questions about the plan design? All right. If not, then we're going to jump into the evidence of insurability process. So I'm going to go ahead and advance this here and read. Oh, there we go. And we're going to let Daniel take over to talk a little bit about what the evidence of insurability or enrollment process looks like. I think this is an area that we seem to get a lot of questions on, and it's pretty impactful for many employees unless they enroll as a new hire. So definitely want Daniel to dive in here and make sure that we explain this.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot to talk about. So thanks, Grace. So my name is Daniel Zuccarelli. I've been with Lincoln for, I think it's 12 or 13 years now, and I've been a manager over the short-term disability over UC for the past 5 years. And the whole 12 years I've been here has all been on the UC account. So I feel like I know what we're doing here. So yeah, to kind of talk through the enrollment for voluntary coverage process, there's two main ways that you can do that. One was kind of mentioned by Andy, and that is when you're a new hire enrolling in just as part of your normal benefit enrollment period, you can enroll at that time. The other way is if you decided not to, or for whatever reason didn't enroll when you were first hired, you have the option to increase or to apply for that coverage later on. And what you would need to do that would be complete an evidence of insurability application. I'll probably refer to that as EOI. So that's what I mean by that, for evidence of insurability. So you can fill out that application. It's I might be kind of jumping ahead between these slides because it all kind of goes together, but you can find the application at the lincolnfinancial.com website. And what it is, I think it's a pretty simple form. It's 5 questions that are kind of like general health questions for you. And when you go and you submit the application, generally you'll get an instant response. Oftentimes it will be an instant confirmation one way or the other. So it's pretty quick and generally easy. Depending on some of the answers, there might need to be medical records requested or something like that to complete the review. But generally, I think that especially for short term, you get an answer pretty quickly. So what'll happen is you answer those questions, and it'll give you a confirmation, and then you'll know if you're approved or not. And if it's approved, this is the important step here: is you'll receive a letter advising of the approval, and so the approval letter itself does not signify that you have been enrolled in that coverage. That's just saying that you're eligible to enroll in it. So you want to be sure to take that approval letter, and it'll have the deadline in there. But on the slide, you can see that you have 31 days. So the letter will say you have 31 days to get together with UC, and I think it's your HR rep. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but you get with them to then officially get enrolled in the coverage, and then that's when the premiums will start being deducted. So again, really important that just the approval letter doesn't mean that you're enrolled in it. You have to go through the enrollment process and get enrolled to make that official. Let's see. And I guess, yeah, if you missed that for any reason, then you have to restart that. You have to restart that enrollment process. So if you try to bring it in on day 33, if it's too late, then you have to go through that enrollment process again to be approved. And again, it's a pretty straightforward process. The questions kind of determine like what your health is right now. So a common example would be if you know that you're pregnant and you try to add the coverage, well, if you're already pregnant, then that may not be approved. But if you know that in the next few months you're going to plan on starting, trying to start a family, if you apply then and there's no other health concerns, then that's when you would likely be approved. So kind of like any other insurance, you can't get into insurance after you've been in a car accident. You can't apply for coverage for that. So it's kind of like a similar thing here. But it is a pretty straightforward process. And I don't know, without getting like, there might be specific questions, but I think generally that's kind of a good overview of how to enroll in the voluntary coverages.
Any questions about the EOI process? Okay. And if not, then I'm just going to kind of wrap up a quick overview here with the frequently asked questions. So thank you, Daniel, for explaining the EOI process. And if anybody has any questions, again, we should have plenty of time here at the end of the call as well. So if you're thinking about things as the presentation progresses, definitely feel free to jump in, or we can ask some questions at the end of the time. So just to kind of sum up what the team indicated here, from the short-term disability and long-term disability standpoint, there is both the basic and voluntary short-term disability plans. So all UC employees would be enrolled, if they're benefits eligible, would be enrolled in the basic STD insurance automatically. employees do have to enroll in the voluntary STD and the voluntary long-term disability if they would like that coverage. So I'm kind of summing up everything here. I'm not going to read it exactly, but from the voluntary standpoint, if employees do decide to enroll in that as a new hire, they're able to forego the evidence of insurability process, and they can be automatically enrolled as long as they do that within their initial enrollment window within 31 days of their new hire event. If they do not opt to do that as a new hire, they are still eligible to enroll in the voluntary short-term and long-term disability coverages. They would just have to follow that process that Daniel outlined as it relates to completing the evidence of insurability and ensuring that that approval form gets back to UC to ensure that they are actively enrolled in the coverages and that they are then actively paying for the coverages through the payroll deductions. It is not a requirement for employees to be enrolling in the voluntary programs, but it is something that we always like to stress is very important. I think it's one of those things that employees, don't actively realize that they need it until they have some sort of event that is upcoming, whether it is delivering a baby or, an unexpected accident or illness, anything of that nature. We always like to stress that the benefit fairs that we attend, and just as we're educating employees as a whole, that, you need to prepare for the unexpected. If you have no wages coming in, if an event like that were to happen, it would be very hard to, continue to live the lifestyle that you're living. So any little bit can help, and it's a small amount that comes out of your paycheck to be enrolled in these. So I think that kind of sums up everything at a high level by means of the plan design and the evidence of insurability process. I wanted to pause here one more time and just see if there's any questions about any of the information we've already talked about. And if not, we're going to have Petra then jump in and show us the portal to give a quick overview of what the employee experience would look like once they get to the MyLincoln portal. All right, I will take silence as golden, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and let Petra pull up her screen.
Okay, thanks, Grace. 1 second here. Let me know. Can someone confirm that you can see my screen?
We're good to go.
Perfect. All right. So like Grace said, my name is Petra Wiesrick. I am the National Account Service Manager. I have been with Lincoln for a little over 3 years. And before that, I was actually on the employer side on the disability and leave team, partnering with Lincoln, who was our group disability vendor at that time. So I have very close roots with Lincoln for the past over 10 years. So it's been really great. One of my roles, so I am responsible, I partner with Grace on all the day-to-day items, and I'm responsible for more of those tactical items. And one of them is the portal. So happy to walk you guys through this, kind of show you what that experience looks like as the employee. So our Lincoln portal, this is our self-service tool. You can submit an EOI application. You can submit your request for a claim. Once you have a claim, you can view the status, upload documentations, view any of the correspondence that has been sent to you. So it's just a really great resource for you throughout that time to be able to partner with Lincoln and get us the information and then correspond, see everything that's been corresponded back to you. So this is a mobile-friendly website, so you can use it on your mobile device, but we actually have an app as well. So you can search Lincoln Financial just in your app store and download that mobile app to have access to this. So however you choose to use it, you should have access 24/7, just right at your fingertips. So this is the main landing page that you would see if you pull this up on a desktop site. So if you have not registered yet, you can select to register and go through those steps just to create that account. What I'll say is if you've ever registered for anything in your life, you'll be able to go through this process pretty easy. It follows the same, provide your email address, go through an authentication process, and then it'll set up the username and password for you. So it's pretty straightforward. So once you have that done, you can select to log in. And you would just enter that username and password that you selected during that registration process. This is going to land you on this landing page. It would look just a little bit different for you. This is our demo site, but you would have the option to select disability insurance or evidence of insurability. We are actually going to select evidence of insurability first and just walk through that process. Like Daniel said, we just want to show you what the overview of that looks like so that you have an understanding of what it takes to submit that EOI application. And spoiler alert, it's very simple and straightforward. So once you are on here, this is just the main homepage for the portal. You can select complete evidence of insurability application. So this is where, if you are, again, electing for those voluntary benefits after your period of initial enrollment has passed, you would be required to submit that EOI. So when you start and come in here, there are some customizable messages that you see we have out there for you. So I just want to make sure that you read those so you're aware of what they're saying before you start the process. There is also just some information here under what do I need to know before I start. So it just summarizes the information that we will be gathering from you throughout this process. You can see the list is not very long. It is very straightforward. And then just some quick tips for your application submission. So there is a timeout feature. If for any reason you were in here and you got pulled away, it will time out after 20 minutes. You also have the ability, once you start the application, to pause, save that application, then come back and finish it later if you need to. So to get started, you're first just going to enter either your social security number or your employee ID. Once you enter that and click verify, it's just going to ask, are you a new employee electing coverage for the first time? So if you have never requested that voluntary coverage, never gone through this EOI process, you would select yes. And then once you select that, it is just going to ask you to review the electronic signature disclosure and make sure that you agree to that. As you continue to the next screen, this is where it's going to ask who's applying for coverage. So you would answer that it is for yourself, and then it's going to ask which coverage type. Is it long-term, short-term, or it could be both? So as you make that selection and continue, we are on the second step of this. This is where it's going to gather some information about you. So it's broken into 3 sections here. You have the employment information, the personal information, and the contact information. Some of this information will pre-populate based on the social security number or the employee ID that you entered. We are getting file feeds from the university with information so that we are able to manage claims on our end. So it will populate as much as possible. We definitely want to make sure that you look over everything that's pre-populated and make any changes to it if you need at that time. Just because it pre-populates doesn't mean you have to keep it that way. So definitely make sure that everything is accurate. And then once you are through entering that information, this is where you can see you can save the application for later if you need to, or you can continue on through the process. So this third step, this is where it is going to ask about the qualifying medical questions. So we do ask that you agree to these terms. It's very, very important that you answer all of these questions truthfully and accurately. So if there is a claim for the voluntary benefits or the basic short-term disability filed within 2 years of the EOI submission, it's not only going to prompt a review of the disability to see, do you meet the qualifications? Are you qualified for that disability to receive those benefits? But also it's going to review the EOI application just to ensure that you have represented your medical history completely and accurately. Your coverage can be rescinded if it was determined that the information provided at this time was omitted or misrepresented. So we definitely just want to call that out. That's, what the agreement is here for. So once you have agreed to that, it asks a question about tobacco or nicotine products, and then it asks a question about your medical information. So 4 questions here asking about that medical within the past 5 years. As you continue, this last page is just going to review the application. So everything that's been entered so far, give it another glance over, make sure that everything is accurate, everything is complete. If you find something at that point that you need to change, you can edit and make that correction and then come back to this screen. Once you continue, this is where it is going to ask you to review the fraud warning and state disclosure. Make sure that you review and acknowledge that and then provide your signature as well. So once you submit, this is the confirmation screen that you will receive. Our system is able to auto adjudicate the majority of the EOI applications that come in. So if your application, it's submitted, it goes through that quick review process. If it's able to be approved, you will see notice right here that it was approved. This is not your approval letter. You will get that in the mail following this, but you can view and print this application so that you just have a copy of it for your records. If it has not been approved, there are times where additional medical information might be needed. There might just need to be an underwriter review on the information that you submitted. You will still see a confirmation page. I just changed it. It doesn't change the screen too much, but you can see it's still telling you you've successfully submitted this, and it will be under review. And then our medical underwriting team will be in contact with you for next steps and outline anything additional that we need at that point. So once the EOI has been submitted, you do have the ability to just view holistically your submission and the status of it. So up across this top bar, if you select evidence of insurability and then the status, it will take you to this view where you can view the coverage type. So let's say you applied for short-term and long-term disability. There can be times where maybe one of them was able to be approved and one needs a manual review, but you would see that status and the definition and the determination dates all listed here. Are there any questions about that EOI submission process before I move over to the claim and that view status?
Yep, and the only thing I was going to call out, and I know Petra mentioned that this is our demo site, so I did want to just call out some of those screens that she initially showed that you may have seen basic life or optional life listed there. This is customized for UC, so the UC employees would not be seeing any of the coverages that wouldn't be applicable to the University of California's plan and program design. So just wanted to be sure. I know she mentioned this is the demo, and so this has kind of all capabilities throughout the Lincoln system, but it is in production UC-specific products.
Thanks, Grace. Good call out on that. I'm going to take us back to our home page. So the next thing that I want to show you is how to view the status of a disability claim. So if you're taking short-term disability claim, you would initiate that through the portal. You would select to start the new claim or leave of absence. It's very similar to that EOI submission where it's just going to walk you through a series of screens where you enter your personal information and then some details about the medical condition that you are needing to take time away from work for. And then it will give you a confirmation screen as well. At that point, it will be assigned to one of our case managers, and then they will be reaching out to you just to start that process and get the ball rolling. So once it's been submitted, you do have the ability to view the status of your claim at any point. So when you select that, this landing page is going to show you holistically any claims that you have had in the past. So anytime that you've been out and Lincoln has administered it, you would be able to view that record in here. It will sort them with the newest one on top. If you want to change that, you can select the sort and filter. If you were looking for maybe something older, you could select that to view it. But from this screen, you can see the employee details. Again, this is all the information that we have on file. Just summary for you up here of your employee information. You can see the status over here on the right-hand column, so it's easy to pick out. You know, I'm looking for my claim that's been approved and I want to review that. And then from this screen, you also have the ability to upload documentation or note return to work plans. But I'm going to take us into the view details and you'll have these options within here too. So I'll show you those in more detail. So when you select the claim that you are looking for, that you want to have more information on that view status, this is what the page will look like. So this middle section here, this is an overview of your claim. So you can see the claim number, you can see the status that it's in, it shows you what coverage. So if it's short-term disability, if it changes to long-term disability, you would see that it is then long-term disability or LTD here. It's going to give you an overview of the cause. And then you do have the option to upload documents. So if you have, let's say, medical information that you receive from your provider and you need to get that over to your case manager, you can select to upload that document. Give us a quick category of what type of document that is. If it doesn't fit into one of these, you can select other. You would select that document from wherever it's stored on your files and then open that. You do have the option to select more than one document at a time. You can upload up to 10 at one time, and then you would just submit. So once you submit, it does let you know that, great, we've got this. And then it triggers a notice to your case manager so that they're aware that something was submitted and they can go in and view that. The case manager's information is right over here. So you do have the ability to view that case manager and reach out to them via that contact information. So if you ever have questions about who do I reach out to, it's right here handy for you. So scrolling down the screen, The claim dates, so this is the first tab down here. This is where you will see all of the dates relevant to your claim. So what date we received it, what date we have noted as your last day worked, the date of disability. So this is in a sense the first day that you have gone out, that you stopped working. This is your first day out. If it's been approved, that's where the approved through date will be populated. And then also the date the benefits are beginning. So like Andy referenced, there is that period between when you first go out and when benefits would begin. So this is showing you the date that you would first be eligible for those payments. And then as we have information about return to work or return to work dates, those would be populated in these screens. If your claim is approved, and then let's say it gets extended for any reason, you're going to see this approved through date just get bumped out to reflect always the latest date that you have been approved through. The next screen is return to work. So once you do have information about your return to work, you know that you're planning to come back and you have that date set between you and your provider, you can come in here and notify your case manager of those plans. So you can let us know, yes, you are planning to return to work. Let's say on a full-time basis, you can enter the return to work date that you are planning for. If there's any information you want your case manager to know, you can add that information here. And then again, if there's a return to work note or form or anything that your doctor's provided related to that, same process that we saw before to upload that documents. Once you submit this, it does again create a task for the case manager. So they get notice that you submitted information about return to work. So they can go into your claim and make any updates that they need to at that point related to those return to work plans. The next screen is related to payment information. So definitely want to know this, when you're getting paid, what to look for, how much, what will your benefits be. That's where all of this information is going to be stored. So you can see the check information. This is just kind of a high level view, check date, those payment dates, and then the check status and the benefit amounts. When you select the plus sign, it's actually going to bring up some more detailed information related to that payment. I want to call out that anytime you see these blue hyperlinks, they are hyperlinks, so you can click on them. So let's say it showed that there was an offset amount. You could click on that and it will bring up just this little sidebar here that would show you what the reason for the offset was. So lots of good information here. You can also call out, you can print a summary of this, or you can download like individual check information. So if you do want to have a copy of this stored, you know, in a PDF version, you do have those options. And then the last tab that I want to highlight for your attention. So this is the correspondence tab. So this is really helpful. When you go through the claim submission process, you will note, you know, how would you like to be notified? Is it via email or mail, or we have fax as an option too? So anytime, if you select email, the correspondence will be sent to you via an email, but it's also saved in here. So you can come in here to see holistically all of the correspondence that has been sent to you from your case manager related to your claim. So definitely very helpful. And again, you can see just the high level overview. This was sent via email. It was, you know, maybe your acknowledgement letter. And then you have the option to download that just to bring that document back up and reference it. Any questions about the view status and what you can see within there?
Yeah, Peter, I have just a quick question. You know, we have our whole leaves team here, and, you know, just to let staff employees know that leaves is always available during this process, but I don't think we have any from academic side of the leaves on here. But just thinking of individuals that might have not enrolled in short-term disability, but have significant amounts of sick leave, right? So but they have long-term insurance or the long-term disability insurance. They have, they've been out of work for 6 months, but they've been on, you know, if they're academic, they have different types of leaves there, and they have been getting paid on a paid leave during that whole time. But they've been out, you know, they haven't been working for 6 months. So when they're filling out for the long-term disability, there would be 2 different dates, right? Would there be a different date from when they went off of work versus when they're filing their first claim with you all? Because in that scenario, they're not enrolled in short-term disability because they opted out of it, and they only have the long-term disability.
Yeah, I can help on that one. I'm unmuted, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was going to say, so normally, well, it could be one of 2 ways. they're like you said, they're not enrolled in the voluntary short-term disability coverage, so there wouldn't be a claim for voluntary, but they still would have basic only. And so there still could be a claim for the basic only one if they had filed that initially. So it would be one of two scenarios, I think. Either they file the claim under basic only and they've just been on paid status that whole time. And that's fine because the basic only claim can go, the best way to explain it is it can go concurrent with the LTD claim because the LTD claim would start at the 6 month mark. So if they filed the basic only claim from the get-go, then we already have the claim, and then our team kind of would just take it from there and create the LTD claim, and it would just be like the normal transition process. Now, if an employee wasn't sure if they were going to need LTD, and so they were just using 6 months of their sick or vacation time, now it's the 6 month mark and they realize, okay, I'm still out, I need to file an LTD claim, then they would still be filing an STD claim because that's where all claims technically would start. So I would just file the STD claim. We would recognize what was going on and get an LTD claim created for them as well. So I hope that makes sense. The basic only plus LTD is sort of tricky to explain. It makes sense when you've been in it as long as we have, but that was the easiest way that I think that I could explain.
Yeah. Oh, and Tess, I was just going to jump in there too. So as it relates, I think you mentioned the two different dates. We would still be treating the first day that the employee was officially disabled or out of work as that date of disability. So from the long-term disability standpoint, the date of disability would still be the first day that that employee was out. However, their benefit begin date would be the date that starts, around the 6 month mark or at the end of the exhaustion of the other benefits. So just wanted to clarify the date would technically still be the same, but the benefit begin date itself for long-term disability may be pushed out.
Great. Thank you. That clears it up. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I do see a question came in the chat too.
Yeah, so it looks like Stephanie had a question, and I guess I'll go ahead and just read this and then we'll see who can answer. So along the same lines, I have several hundred hours of sick accruals. Does it make sense to maintain the voluntary short-term elective plan, or is a long-term plan sufficient?
Yeah. Can I take that one too, Grace? Because I'm really glad that you brought it up. I was going to hit on this anyway, because this is a semi-common question that I've had. So, I mean, I guess the short answer is I would still, like me personally, I would recommend having it because what we've seen happen before and what could happen is, let's say you do have like 6 months of, you have the 6 months of accrued. And if you have more, then that's something to consider as well. But let's just say you only have 6 months. If you go out on a claim, you exhaust that 6 months, maybe you go to LTD for a little bit, and then you return to work. And then let's say, I don't know, a year or two later, you go back out, you have another condition where you have to go back out for another claim, but you've exhausted your whole bank. Now you're only going to have basic only coverage for the first 6 months again, and only receive the $800 per month. So that's the big caveat there is if you happen to have a second claim or a third claim, now you've exhausted a majority or maybe all of your bank, and that's where you kind of get stuck. So I guess you kind of have to weigh the pros and cons there. I have just seen so many, again, over like 12 years, I've seen almost, maybe not every scenario, because I'm sure there's some crazy ones out there, but I've seen these before where they have basic only, and that exact thing happens, and now they have 6 months that they have to wait before they can start on the LTD benefits and get the 60%. So I don't know if anyone else has anything to add on it, but that's my opinion and my experience with it. I always recommend it.
Right. I was going to add to, if you do disenroll in your voluntary short-term disability benefits, if you decide later that you do want to re-enroll, then you need to go through that evidence of insurability application process, and you may or may not be able to re-enroll in it. So if you have that coverage at present, then you have it and you are set for future. But if you choose to disenroll, then you would have to reapply and may or may not be granted the coverage depending on that application process. So you just want to have that information when you're deciding about potentially disenrolling.
Great call out, Andy. All right. I'm going to go ahead and just pull back up my screen. Covers the extent of the presentation that we had pulled together here. We had one slide that was just highlighting everything that Petra, kind of summarizing everything that Petra went through as it relates to the portal. It is a pretty quick and easy portal. And like she mentioned, we do have an app that is available that has all of the same features and functionality. So if any of the UC employees are interested in downloading the app rather than using their browser or using their computer to access that information, it is available through either of the app stores. and hopefully they can find it pretty intuitive and easy to use. So lastly, we just had one last slide for any questions, and I appreciate everybody asking the questions here, kind of interactive, but wanted to open it up just in case there's anything else that has come to your minds as we've been discussing the last few minutes.